And now it's time for the mailbag questions from you guys. All of these questions were submitted on Twitter and Instagram. So if you don't follow me or the Tee It Up Instagram page, make sure you do that now to get your questions submitted for future mailbag episodes. The first question is going to come from our guy, Ja Flo. He says, what do you think, or who do you think can be the next second option to become a number one? His examples were Brunson, Jaylen Brown to round out this question. Some of them, the names that came to mind for me, Austin Reeves. I think you have to look at what he's been doing with Los Angeles when he's been healthy with the Lakers and everything. And not only is he a second option, I mean, when LeBron came back, kind of made him third fiddle. Sometimes he's still the second option, but LeBron James is always going to be a priority and have that basketball in his hands. But some of the things and some of the games that Austin Reeves gave us when Luka and LeBron were out wasn't a large sample size, but it was enough to make me consider him as one of the answers to this question. I'm also thinking about a young player, Keontae George, with the Utah Jazz, the season he's been having. Him and Laurie Markkinen. I mean, for the most part, Laurie Markkinen is their first option, but kind of like Austin Reeves, Keontae George has had some games, some performances, and some shots that makes me kind of squint a little bit. And like, is that a guy that could take another jump? Because the season he's having now is a quote unquote jump in a breakout year. But because he's so young, is there more in store? And, from a young guy perspective, I like the idea of Keontae George based on the season that he's having. Also, Brandon Miller out there in Charlotte. He's already had some injury-riddled seasons, as a lot of the Hornets players have. But kind of like Keontae George, there are moments and flashes that you see with Brandon Miller where you're like, yo, is this a number one option in the making? Or is he just a really good complimentary guy and a number two? And then last but not least, a guy that we're probably never going to really see the full season of it. Thankfully, we don't. I'm not sure we want to see the full season of it. But Jamal Murray, he plays with Jokic. Nobody ever want to see Jokic hurt or on a different team, and we don't really want to see this duo broken up. So again, we never might get that Jamal Murray number one option sample size. But throughout the course of his career and big moments, playoff games, regular season games, we've seen these performances from Jamal Murray that are very number one option esque, right? 50-point games in the playoffs, game winning shots, step back jumpers, daggers. He's had it over the course of his career, on to win championships and everything. So I think Jamal Murray has to be a guy, no doubt, in that conversation for me. The next question comes from my guy, Colton. He says, if you had to compare LeBron's career to an album or mixtape, what would it be? See, I took a long time to think about this because y'all know I'm a big music fan and a big music lover. But after some thought, I came up with So Far Gone, Drake's breakout project slash mixtape that I think is one of his timeless records, one of his timeless bodies of work. And the reason I went with So Far Gone is because it was one of his first major projects. And LeBron first came on the scene strong as ever. Like, we didn't need a build up from LeBron. There was no like, give him 3 years. He's a year away from being, he's a year away from being a year away. Like, no, he came in 25-5 in second year, third year, just shot out of a cannon and took over the NBA. And that's kind of how Drake felt after this So Far Gone mixtape. He also has 18 songs. I was looking for a project that was long because LeBron has had a long career. So I first started like Illmatic with Nas, but then that's only 10 songs. And if you take out the intro, it's really like 9 songs. But we have the long songs, came out of the gate strong, and then he also has some legendary collaborators on this project. And I think LeBron's career has the same thing because he played with the Bosches, he played with Wade, he played with Kyrie and Kevin Loves and Anthony Davis. So if it kind of has all of that, and then I put Timeless, and we haven't seen anything since. There has been some comparisons of some projects like So Far Gone. There's been some things that come close, but we have not seen anything like it since. And I think that's the same case for LeBron James. So I felt Drake and So Far Gone, is a good mix for this answer. And I did that while forgetting that LeBron and Drake has had some tension over the last year or so. So hopefully, that friendship can be restored because those two guys, like, I think are very similar in their respective industries or sports, have you may. My boy Flight Weed says, do you think Tatum should try to come back this season and give the Celtics a shot in the playoffs, especially with the East being so wide open? I think the Celtics would have a legitimate shot if he came back. I will say this. Jayson Tatum is going to return this season. I do think the East is wide open. I do think the Celtics are going to be a tough out for anybody that faces them in the Eastern Conference, including my New York Knicks. But it's something about putting this championship pressure or expectation on a team that is going to be joined re bringing in or trying to reestablish their star who's coming off an Achilles injury. I just don't know if I want to put that much pressure on the shoulders of a team that has to kind of reconfigure Jayson Tatum off of such a major injury. Like an Achilles injury is such a big blow to the body and the lower body, and you have to kind of regain everything from the movement to the cutting and learning how to walk again the right way. And so to get back into basketball level play, and he's not rejoining in the preseason, he's not joining back in the beginning of the season. When he rejoins the team, it's going to be over the next month and a half or so, which is like end of February, March. That's the heart of the season where things are starting to settle into place right before we get into the playoff mix. So to think that you can just throw him in the mix, I'm not saying it's impossible, but he's already setting a like unprecedented return from an Achilles injury. I kind of just want to see Jayson Tatum knock the dust off, kind of get back into a rhythm so that next year when he returns, he's a full 100%. He's already had some games under his belt after the Achilles injury to kind of readjust and get back to playing basketball at a high level after recovering from this injury. Because I do think that when players come back at the beginning of the season and without any games under their belt, it's a big adjustment period. So I feel like you can use the adjustment period now to have the Celtics be full throttle next season. And it also gives them an offseason to address, the new look of this team because Jayson Tatum hasn't played with the new Celtics. The last time he was on the floor, they still had Porzingis and Drew Holiday and Al Horford. This is a whole new look of a Celtics team who's still having success. So again, I think they should prioritize getting him back, making sure he's healthy, getting him into the rhythm, getting him adjusted. Um, and playing as best as they can and taking that as far as they can. If that is the finals, then obviously you go and you win the finals. But I want to be reluctant of putting that expectation and that pressure on this team while bringing him back into a situation. Hot take. This is from my guy Rack One Chaser. You can't win an NBA championship without an all-star big slash forward, but you can without an all-star guard. And my reply, because I went and I did my research for you, but this sounded accurate, but I wanted to make sure I was 1,000% correct. I don't think this is a hot take because factually speaking, we haven't seen this since the 89 Pistons with Zeke, Isaiah Thomas as their only all star. The following year, because they went back to back, Dennis Rodman had made an all star, and I think, he would classify as a big or a forward. But you think about the 2000s, that Shaq, Tim Duncan, the Miami Heat winning. That's with LeBron James and Chris Bosh as their forwards. The Detroit Pistons won in the middle of 2000. That's Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace. You think about the Warriors, their dynasty in the 2010s. Draymond Green is their forward, an all-star center. Kobe and Gasol. Gasol is the forward all-star, and so is Bynum. Dirk in 2011 is the all-star forward. Kawhi with the Raptors, Anthony Davis and LeBron with the Lakers, Giannis with the Bucks ring. Yeah, it's like it's very hard when you go back and you factually look at all-star forwards or centers. A lot, if not all of them, have that. And the first team that I got to was the 89 Pistons with Isaiah Thomas. There are some teams that were the runner-up that lost in the finals, right? The 2024 Mavericks, who lost to the forwards, a tandem of Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That team was led by Luka and Kyrie. There's no all-star wing or forward or center on that team. The 2021 Suns were led by Devin Booker and CP3, Aiden, Mikal Bridges, and Cam Johnson, the wings, forwards, bigs for that team were not all-stars. And then the 2003 Nets were led by Jason Kidd, and he was their all-star representative. So we got some teams that awfully came close. But yeah, with the facts, based on your statement, Rack One Chaser, I don't know if that's too much of a hot take. I think that's a factual statement that history kind of shows is truthful. And it's very interesting. I would love to see a championship with like a lead guard again and not an all-star big or a wing. But I think only time will tell.